Hi everybody, this is Talia Wardar from Flow Coaching Institute again. And in this video, I want to talk about the differences between therapy, coaching, consulting, and mentoring. If you watched my previous video on what coaching is, I mentioned that there is a fine line between therapy and coaching, and most of the time, even amongst coaches, there is a confusion about how coaching can be differentiated from mentoring, or how coaching can be differentiated from therapy. So yes, there is a fine line. I totally agree that, and as you practice, you learn to distinguish in the session from mentoring and coaching, and yet there are also differences that you can learn from the very beginning if you're intending to coach others professionally. So if I draw a line, such as from problem focused to solution focused, and horizontal line, and then if I draw a vertical line from asking to telling, I would say that mentoring. If I start with mentoring is about telling and giving advice. And who is a mentor? Mentor is a person that has experience in about the subject that he or she is mentoring. And mentoring is usually applied in organizations as a form of transferring know-how, experience, and knowledge within the organization and across the organization between different levels, such as a fresh manager can be a mentee, and a senior manager can be a mentor, and the subject of the mentoring relationship can be about developing the managerial skills of the fresh manager. So the mentor should have relevant experience, knowledge, and information about this subject of mentoring. And it's more, as I mentioned, it's more about telling and also giving advice and sharing experiences. And it's solution focused, of course. And therapy, on the other hand, is about, and classical therapy, the form of classical therapy, is about exploring and identifying where the person is challenged, and going to the root cause of that challenge, which might be the person's childhood. And so in traditional therapy, and for example Freudian therapy, that is called psychoanalysis, the therapist goes back to and analyzes the person's history, the person's childhood, the person's relationship with his or her parents. And so because in traditional therapy, it is believed that if you go to the root cause of the problem, you can heal that problem, or you can treat that problem. And therapy usually involves and mostly involves diagnosis. So it is about identifying the problems, identifying the challenges, and identifying the root cause of the problem, and coming up with a diagnosis and treating the person, having a lot of methodologies, of course, in traditional therapy, treating the person's problems. Sometimes it involves medication for recovery. And consulting, if I come to consulting, consulting is about mostly used by organizations and companies is about analyzing the situation where the challenge is, or where the problem is, or where the stuckness is, or where the mistake is sometimes, and coming up with a certain analysis of the situation. Usually involves problem solving, and telling the company or telling the organization and giving advice. Of course, it involves a lot of advice giving about the solution. And there are, big consulting firms in the world, the big four, such as KPMG, McKinsey, and others. So it involves writing reports, it involves advising, but it's not about partnering with the company to lead them, or to guide them, or to partner with them to create those solutions. The process is more focused on identifying and analyzing the situation, and giving advice about certain scenarios of success, or certain scenarios of solutions. And if we come to coaching is about partnering with a person that we call either as client or coachee, or a group of people that is called as group coaching or team coaching. It's about partnering with them and to support them to identify meaningful goals, and helping them, maybe walking with them through along the way in the journey of achieving those goals. So coaching is, I should say, very much, it's a goal-oriented relationship. It involves problem solving. It involves achieving goals. It involves helping people to have to design, to think of, to imagine, and then maybe design a meaningful plan, an effective plan towards having a more happy life, towards becoming and daring to live a better version of themselves, and towards having and achieving career goals, towards thinking of planning and achieving business goals, and so on. So the coaching relationship, which can be minimum of I would say 3 months, and it can go up to a year, mostly, usually. That relationship is a future-oriented relationship. So the coach meets the person as where they are, and together with the person, the coach supports the person to dare to imagine and a meaningful and happier future. So it's about closing the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Thank you very much.